homie. Good to see you, Alex. How you doing, Alec? Brian, it's so nice to have you on board. Much love, pal. How you be? Just setting up here, getting ready to go. Doing great? Awesome. Let's go. It's going good for me, buddy. It's going good for me. I'm just finishing putting up everything. I just got done playing some Destiny 2 with a good friend. Actually, you would know them. Artie. I have been wanting to get a, I've been wanting to do that for like a while. There's like a there's a dungeon you can only do with 2 people. And unfortunately, my ass didn't have a second person because I've had, like, pretty much my whole clan has dropped off the face of the earth for Destiny. But Artie was nice enough to play with me, so much love, Artie. Thank you. Just dropping these everywhere. Yes, I know I don't need to put it in yours, but also I wanted to. We're almost entirely unpacked. We've been hanging pictures and painting cupboards and whatnot. Oh, that's so awesome. Seriously. I'm really glad. Okay. I think we're good. Just gotta put this last little update here. We can clear that in 4 hours. Cool, we'll be set. We're all good to go. Yo, Yudo, good to see you. You're not late for stream. No, you are not. Oh yeah, I miss hanging out with Artie. Me too, honestly. It was just I miss hanging out with all of you guys. You're all great. And it's just a good opportunity to have done so. Also, Yudo, hope you're doing well. I hope it's been a good day so far. Alright. I'm done futzing around. We are all set. I'm just gonna make sure that it's properly posted. And we're just gonna pin that to the top of my blue sky, and we're golden. Let's freaking go. Hello, everyone. I am the last Omnitech, your favorite robot American, and welcome to the next episode of Omni Draws. In this case, where I'll be drawing Gentry, Dolaan Ain't No Fascist, my Helldivers 2 fan comic. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Truly, I really am. So we're just gonna close that because I don't need to see that right now. I'm going to close that because I don't need that. see, about to sleep actually, about to check, see how you're doing as well. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Let's pop on the camera. Hey, there we go. We're good. Today's been rolling up, thanks for asking. Heck yeah. Alright, well, I'm really glad you're doing okay, and I know if you're about to pop off to sleep, like, I'm glad that you got a chance to pop in, say hi. If you need to duck out to go rest, please do. So, today we're going to be doing something that I've only done really in passing before. For those of you who are familiar with the webcomic Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist, you would actually know that Gentry is a member of the 613th Mechanized Cavalry. That's actually what the title up there really is. That's not new. He is, in fact, a cavalry soldier. What does Mechanized Cavalry mean in a military stand? Well, Mechanized Cavalry means basically rides a tank. Either a tank, a Humvee, some kind of vehicle. So, in his case, he's what would be considered a spearhead force. So he would ride an armored vehicle. So I guess the proper term wouldn't be Mechanized Cavalry, it'd be Armored Cavalry. So we might have to tweak that a little bit in his backstory. But he does actually have his own mech. I've drawn it before. It, in fact, got a whole sequence in Arc 1, where he basically had his big epic moment, his big firefight. So yeah, like, his exo is a big part of how he fights and how he behaves, so... Oh yeah, Gentry. Horse on wheels, P-much, yeah. Haven't mentioned it, Midwest allowed me to truly embrace my goth self. Let's go! I do want to say that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm glad, buddy. Yeah, so Gentry is a mech pilot. The exos are really, really fun. I personally enjoy playing them myself a lot. With a mounted machine gun, yes. I actually really enjoy the mech. I think it's probably one of my favorite parts of the game. Just a really enjoyable component part of it. And frankly, I just really have enjoyed drawing them, but I don't really draw them very often anymore. So we're gonna fix that. This next arc of Gentry's is still gonna be very intrigue-based, but we are gonna have some epic moments of gunfire in this. Yes, get in the mech, Gentry. Shinji, get in the robot. Your dad loves you. Get in the robot. So, this, however, was back when Gentry was first joining the Helldivers, and he first got his exos. So, his first exos were assigned to him. He didn't get to really customize them, so hence why they're all sporting the standard black aesthetic. But I think it was in actually one of my first, like, off-episode goofs. Yeah, the Escalation of Freedom update. Yeah, no. I actually drew a really rough doodle of what I wanted Gentry's color scheme to be for his mech, eventually. And for the record, this is actually how I tend to run it. I tend to run it with an energy shield, because, for those of you who don't know, as a really fun little fact, if you have an aura effect on you as a diver, namely the backpack, it actually applies to the mech. It doesn't, unfortunately, apply to any of the drones or anything you have. So if you have one of the dog backpacks, those don't deploy. I wish they did. That'd be so fucking awesome. But this is a pretty solid start. The energy shield gives you a crazy amount of durability. With this build, I have shrugged off direct laser cannon shots from those big in-place laser cannons and gotten the kill off on it. Like, it basically gives you one extra kill, one extra shot. Gentry, crank that soldier boy. So, I always like the idea that Gentry actually has a shield generator integrated into his mech. So, this thing is... I'm very pleased with the original color scheme to a degree, but I want to retool it a little bit. This is a very rough sketch of what we had done the first time. So let's take that and flip that on its head, shall we? I'm going to try to take this slightly more complete design that I have here. And we're going to just apply that to the full mech. Let's see, pop on over here. So yeah. So, Gentry's first mech is a Valiant. No, sorry. Gentry calls his mech Valiant. I understand this. Here we go. Vigilant. I believe Valiant is the name of the first Exo. That's the Exo 45. I know the numbers. It's Exo 45 and Exo 47. Exo 45. Patriot. It's the Patriot and the Emancipator. I know the name of the Emancipator because that is my go-to mech. So we're actually gonna stick Gentry from his old design. His old design. We're gonna actually make a new tab specifically on his mech. This is gonna be his mech, Vigilant. I might just call it Vigilance, but Vigilant sounds so good, so I'm gonna keep it as Vigilant. And we're going to make it what it actually is, an Exo 47. So, the Exo 47 is the Emancipator, a pair of twin autocannons. Basically the thing's a rifleman from Battletech. And I love the rifleman from Battletech. If you're unfamiliar with the rifleman from Battletech, well, let me just show you. I'll show you the non-forbidden design, because there's like a bunch of forbidden designs for Battletech because they were actually made without permission by Harmony Gold selling the rights. Turns out Macross wasn't too pleased with a bunch of people buying the rights to it, including Battletech. So this, if I can pop this over properly, if it's showing, yes. This is the Rifleman in Battletech. It is a heavy twin autocannon mech. It is so good. It is just guns all day. Mongoose maxing, yeah, pretty much. And I really love this thing. This thing is so cool. So I basically am taking that, and I'm going to be applying that to an Exo. So, Exo 47. I'm going to get some references going. Okay. There's so many, like, so many different designs here. Here we go. And there's a Lego mock-up. God dang. Alright. Emancipator. I just want to see the actual art. Cool. Okay. So let's get ourselves started. We're going to start ourselves with a quick sketch. I'm going to grab one of Gentry's silhouettes here with his full body armor. I'm going to take the forward variant. Slap that underneath the Vigilant here. We're going to turn off the Gentry drawing. We're then going to take this, and we are going to... There shouldn't be any text on it. Nope. Cool. We're going to rasterize that. Save it. And rename this as Gentry Silhouette. Beautiful. Okay. And I think I actually did the head as well on there. Yeah, I had the helm as well. What the heck? The one thing I didn't copy over. Okay, that's fine. Let's see. Did I just not do it? I guess I didn't do it yet. That's unfortunate. I thought I had. Weird. Yeah, I was sure I had. Ah, weirdy. Whatever. Alright, so we're just going to pop in on here. We're going to use this Gentry silhouette to get the approximate scale of the Exo correct. I've been doing this with all my big model designs, all my, like, larger scale concepts. So we're going to use the original Escalation of Freedom design as well, a little bit here. This is going to give me a good sense of scale for what I want to do. Beautiful. So we want Gentry's mech to roughly, as I reduce the opacity so we can actually see what's underneath it. Good. So we want Gentry's mech to be actually to scale, and that's about right, more or less. Yeah, travel-sized. He's wee. He's small. He's wee. We're gonna reduce the opacity on this just a hair, so you can move it over a little bit. That's about right. Now, Gentry stands about 6 foot tall, give or take. So, with that being, like said, 6 foot tall versus an Exo isn't really that big. They feel a lot bigger in the video game because usually there's a lot of uneven terrain. But if you actually stand next to an Exo, you don't come up past its, like, mid-thigh. So that's what we're currently working with here. So we're going to pop in on here, and we're going to start working on this with a sketch layer. Just just a simple block, actually. This is the other way I tend to draw machines. I tend to just, like, actually draw a big hunkin', like, a hunkin' piece of metal, and then go from there. Now, I want to make a design that I can replicate frequently, which means I'm going to cut down on a couple of the design elements that are normally present on Exos. That'll make sure that is at 100%. All good. Okay, cool. I'm going to put that underneath. Good, so now I can actually see the block correctly. 7 minutes till midnight for me, you gotta hop off now. Much love, thank you for showing up, buddy. Rest up, have a good one. And you'll see more of Gentry's mech soon in the comics, so it was good to have you on board, even for a little bit. You too, take care. Alright, so, as far as Gentry's Exo goes, we're gonna go with a relatively standard design here. I tend to give it, like, rounded, like, joints on the knees. Whenever I draw any mechs, I tend to draw these things. I like to call them, like, joint breaks, usually. Because it's basically what they are. They're like anti-lock breaks for your kneecaps. Which I wish I had. That would make my kneecaps a lot more durable, actually. I haven't had any issues with them yet. Let's hope that stays that way. I'm gonna set this to, like, 45, actually. There we go. So I can actually just sort of shade this in. And then add some more shading here and there where I think it's relevant. Okay, cool. Alright. So then the Exo tends to have like this little diapery kind of area here. This is where the actual like leg joints connect. So we're gonna sort of pull it a little higher. Technically, as I understand, this is actually the drivetrain of the whole thing. So we're gonna have that. It's got his upper body, and I'm literally like over here just borrowing elements straight off of the original design. Because when you design something once, it's a lot easier to just streamline the existing process. And I'm just sort of eyeballing here between the actual design that I'm looking at from the video game and the design that I've sort of doodled for this little, like, promotional piece. Quite some time back. This was, like, literally me just throwing something together, lickety-split, without any real thought. Okay. So, there are a couple of upgrades I do want to make to this thing. Just a couple. For starters, I feel like Gentry would have augmented his mech a little bit. Probably given it some kind of, like, enhanced servos or something. Move it a little faster. I figure at this point, since he's now the last man on Shuhei and a little bit of a known quantity in the game, in the setting, he probably has, like, actually retooled his mech a few times. And unlike actual, like, Helldivers in the game, he doesn't die all the time, so he can kind of reuse the same thing if it can be picked up over and over again. Now, the Exos don't have these little toes, but I like drawing these little toes on machines. I think it gives them a little bit more, like, grippy. Makes them look a little more easy to sort of design and, like, conceive of. Cool. So we're just going to fill this all in. Beautiful. We're going to do the same thing here. These joints will go straight down. And we're just going to sort of pick that up there. Cool. So Valiant is basically a spearhead mech by its strictest design. There we go. So we're going to keep it with the standard Emancipator armament, which is basically just 2 heavy autocannons, more or less. We're going to do the same thing under here. Okay. So now we get to the actual autocannons. The autocannons themselves are kind of crazy. They literally have all the same mechanisms the handheld autocannon has, but they just sort of shrank it down a little bit. So we're going to just expand that a tad. Here we go. Also, by the way, for those of you guys who are currently watching, I would like to remind everybody that I currently, on my Patreon, which, huge thanks to my Patreon members, by the way, Ampersand, Atlas, and Heinrich at Tier 1, and Necronomulus and Souls Roll is at Tier 2. At the moment, on my Patreon, I actually have a poll currently up, where you guys can decide what's going to show up on this channel next. So if you're curious, or you actually want to have, like, a little bit of input on what's going to happen, the vote is currently live, and it's going to be lasting at least for 4 more days as of the time this video has gone live. So, I highly recommend pop on over to my Patreon at that link right there. 1, if you can afford to, I'd love your financial support. If you can't, no worries. It's open to the general public. I have a lot of stuff on there for free, including the entirety of the webcomic, sans the latest episode, which is about 2 weeks fast for those who subscribe. So if you are a subscriber, you guys get to see stuff 2 weeks early. I hope you like that. I do too. But the poll and the updates, those are all free, along with the majority of my content. So please, go subscribe over there, at least follow it, and let me know what you think. What do you want to see on this channel? I do want to eventually do all the ideas that are currently there. I'm currently bouncing between 3 concepts. 1 would be a hobby journal vlog where I do everything from art like these to actually like tabletop wargaming and video gaming and stuff like that, including webcomics, TTRPGs, mini wargaming, all that. And I basically check in with you guys, and that's kind of part of the content. Or another option would be Gentry, Dolaan, Ain't No Fascist audio webcomic readings. So for those of you guys who really like the webcomic, which I know is a not inconsequential number of the folks who follow my content right now, you guys could possibly have me making an audio, basically, an audio webcomic, where you guys will actually get to hear me role-playing as Gentry, me actually voice acting the webcomic out for you guys. So keep an eye out for that. The final option is Legacy First Flight recap videos. So if you've been really interested in wanting to tune into my TTRPG streams on my Unicorn Head Studios channel, then, which is my other YouTube channel, by the way, I do have 2. One is specifically for my TTRPG stuff. Then you might have had issues like trying to follow in like what's going on with the plot and that kind of thing. I would love to do a series of videos where I just focus solely on that, on like getting people up to speed on what's happened, about how the world works and how to play the game and such. So all 3 of these are things I do want to eventually do. My real question to you guys is, what do you want to see first? And that's what that poll really is about. All right, so we're making pretty good speed here. I think, yeah, we're doing all right. Okay, so this is the base exo design we got going on here. At least as of the drawing now. It's pretty fast, easy to throw together, like nothing too crazy. Oh, I didn't do the arm on the other side. Scheisse. I'll fix that. Okay, we just need to amp these cannons up a little bit, you know. These are rookie numbers. Need bigger guns here. There we go. Bring the auto cannon out. I actually don't know what the auto cannon on the Emancipator looks like. Okay, so it's a circular barrel. It's a circular barrel with a single slit down the side. That's interesting. Now this is a fun little trick. As opposed to drawing a highly technical piece multiple times, just copy it. Just copy-paste it a couple times. It'll actually do just as well. Perfect. Literally exactly where it should be. We have the color swatch in the way, so I'm going to just turn that off for a second. Merge that down. Save the whole thing so I don't lose any projects. Ah, shit. Okay, there we go. Merge down again. I did see that I just had a little bit of an issue. And we're going to merge that down. Beautiful. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're going to rasterize the whole thing. I'm going to save it. So the reason I rasterize stuff all the time is because that actually helps keep the burden on my PC a little lower. Rasterizing basically means taking any, like, fixed elements and actually making them pixels that I can play with and manipulate. So this kind of helps out a little bit. So we have the ammunition hoppers, which are on the interior. There's a part of me that's like, I would love to give, like, a melee weapon to this thing, but I don't think that's really necessary. I feel like giving Gentry enhanced, like, articulation on his mech would effectively equate to a melee weapon. I want these action scenes with the mechs, with the exos, to really sort of have a lot of punch to them. Okay, cool. So we have ourselves a pretty solid design, and underneath you can actually see the original designs pretty much like one-to-one there. Unlike the old design, though, it's a little bit nicer, a little cleaner. So we're gonna fix that. Okay, cool. So now that we're here, let's get to actually filling this in a little more. Wrong layer. There we go. Okay. Turn that off. Get on our block. And we're going to just block this out a little more. So, Gentry's armor design is actually this very bright white. I kind of like the idea of him being very Moon Knight in that way. He's sort of he's the sort of figure that when he's coming, you will see him coming. He will be visible from space when he comes to punch you out. I really like the idea of his mech, on the other hand, like reflecting that. So I figure he's probably got 2 paint jobs. And there's a part of me that wonders if he still uses the old Exo, like, yeah, the old, like, Exo Patriot model, the Exo 45, as opposed to the Exo Emancipator 47, which is the one I use. I feel like he probably uses this thing, like, for the very public loud ops, you know? Like, when he's actually acting in his, like, role as a Helldiver. This is probably the thing he's busting out. So let's start working with, like, a rough color. Since we've got our block pretty well situated here, I'm going to start hitting some of these layers of areas where there's going to be some distinction in terms of the visibility. Okay. And over here, actually going to have this coming like that. Yeah, that's accurate. Okay. So there we go. So we have the face. Cool. I want all the forward-facing parts to look a certain shade. Here we go. Hey, Bones! Good to see you, friend. Welcome aboard. We're just giving Gentry's mech Vigilant a little bit of love today. Alright, it's looking alright so far, but we need to do a little bit of work on it to really bring it up to standard. Okay, so let's start actually drawing on this thing. Let's get some layers going. So we're going to do a baseline color palette of what this thing looks like, and then we're going to go from there. But we're not quite done with some of the upgrades, because Gentry's Exo actually has a couple of upgrades that are relevant. So let's do them. First things first. Vigilant is a little bit faster than most other Exos. I figure he's rigged this thing up a little bit. Just, you know, something a little bit swifter, so that he can actually, like, serve as cavalry. So we've got that. I'm just gonna hit that too. Cool. So we can sort of block all this in. There we go. Okay. So his mech is a little swifter, so the legs are going to be a little stronger. Let's start adding some detail to this. We're going to go with a mid-tone here, and just start filling it out. It's a little too far there. Yeah, we can just go here, starting at that. Now the EXO has this like weird little block at the top here. I'm going to actually keep it because I really like the way it sort of helps frame this silhouette. It does have these little bars on top, which I'm going to also keep because I just think they're really cool that you can hang off of these things. Ostensibly, like, there's so many little jockey boxes and, like, bars you can hang off of on these things. They really do feel very, like, visually, aesthetically pleasing to design. Like, from a purely, like, technical standpoint, drawing an EXO is a legitimate joy. Okay, and then we're going to go over here. And we're going to sort of put the tops of these anti-lock leg brakes up. Because that's in, like, every mech I've ever drawn. Has these anti-lock brakes on the legs. Every single one. I've never designed one that doesn't. We're going to have an outline here. I like the EXO 45. I like the EXO 45 and the EXO 47. They have this like really long kind of like open part to their armor. It doesn't make much sense, except I imagine for like repair, because then you can more readily access the interior. This whole part's like one solid brick going really far up, as I recall. So we're just gonna have this here. Cool. I want to put another anti-lock brake right there. Just so that way when Gentry's mech is hauling ass, if he needs to stop, it's not going to snap him at the femur. I just think that would be a good idea. Just a personal touch. Okay. He's got the back of his legs here. How are you doing today, Bones? How's your day been? As I'm just doodling away. Okay, and then we're going to give him one last set of anti-locks right there. And take that, bring that up. Cool. And we can bring that all the way around the edge. And there we are. Perfect. Okay. So we've got these very thick, blocky legs. Which, funny enough, like, have these sort of, like, hydraulics at the back, usually, which I'm actually going to keep. I really like that element. So we're going to have that coming right down here. We'll do the same thing on the other side. It'll be a lot harder to see because of the silhouette, but it is there. That's going to be under the block, too. There we go. So that'll be a little more visible. Perfect. Cool. So our boy's got his nice hydraulic struts back there. So I do want to keep that. This part usually goes up higher, and I kind of want to show off the hydraulics on this thing. So we're going to do that. So we have Gentry's EXO slowly materializing here. We're also going to have these joint locks here. There we go. Okay, so we do need to fill that area in a little bit. Beautiful. Perfect. We're just gonna swap that over. Okay, cool. So we have Gentry's legs on his mech, very nicely reinforced. We're gonna do this on the right layer, so I can actually see it. There we go. Cool. Then we'll have the hydraulics on the back. A little more obvious. Okay. So there's like this toe plate that's on the front. And we're going to keep that. It's very iconic. But we're going to add some actual toes to the toe plate. I figure this will help justify Gentry's slightly higher than average, like, turning speed and movement speed for his mech. We're not quite going full-on Gundam here, where it's like the entire thing's a super advanced prototype or whatever. Nah, not really. It's just... this is a standard EXO with some tools, with some loving. Awesome. So Gentry's got our solid, like, little toe plates there. Just save this. I'd be very sad if I went this far and I completely fucked it up. Okay, do the same thing on the other side. Got these toe plates. This is as close to getting feet pics or feet drawings as you're ever gonna get, anybody who's out there, so I hope you know. Enjoy it while you can. Robot toes are as many toes as you guys get. They can't pay me enough for that. Alright, so we're gonna pull this over here. Cool. Alright, so we've got this very thick, kind of like reinforced bit here. Nice. Alright, that works. So we got our joints pretty much locked in here. Now let's get the underside of this thing. Now the real EXO has this really long, like, deep chin. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just this really deep chin joint on here. Yeah. So this actually is where the camera on the EXO 45 is. As far as I can tell, it actually has its camera there. I don't like that. Two reasons. One, it is very much at eye level, which is not ideal. If you're firing against guys with guns, sounds like a great way to have your camera put out. So I like the idea instead of going with a slightly more Titanfall Atlas design. So the Atlas in Titanfall has this very specific set of cameras built into it. It's a very distinctive aesthetic. That, or the Heavy Titan. I can't remember what the Heavy Titan is called. The Gorilla, that's what it is. So the Gorilla has this, like, really weird, like, offset camera on it, which actually makes a lot of sense. I'll show you guys. So, this This is what the Atlas looks like from Titanfall. And these are its cameras. If you notice, it has 1, 2, 3, and then 4. There's a gimbal one up top. This is the Gorilla. It actually has a gimbal camera and only 1 gimbal camera. I like the idea of taking 2 gimbal cameras and putting them on this mech's shoulders. So if I were to block this out, what it'd be actually looking like is something closer to like this. As I sort of just take control of this for a second. There we go. So it'll have 2 cameras, both basically next to each other. And I could also have a camera down here. Just so that we can keep with the general aesthetic of the mech. So if I do that, it would look something like maybe a little cuff at the bottom. It needs to rotate around it. Have that other one right here. So this would give it superior range finding than its current design. Which, for the record, again, I love the EXO design. It's so good. But it's just a little off. It just needs a little love. Also, for the record, a very common camera design to have a range-finding element and a non-range-finding element. So yeah, by having these 3... And I'm just going to hit this with red eyes here, just so we can see clearly where the optics are. It'd actually be cyan for these. Let's do it with cyan. I've got a swatch here. Why not use the color swatch? I'm just going to take that straight from Gentry's eye. There we go. Okay. Because this would have the same colors as Gentry's optics. There we go. So I figured Gentry's probably got 2 exos. He's got the exo that he uses publicly. And then he's got the exo that he uses as a psyop. Specifically doing behind enemy lines kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking of for the camera arrangement on this thing. So he's got, it would have 4 cameras, technically. So I guess 5, sort of. I don't consider the Laser Rangers cameras. They're really more depth perception. But by adding this would allow Gentry's EXO to have a wider field of vision and respond to threats more efficiently. There's also a video, very quickly, that I want to see if I can find this. Let's see. It's like one particular guy that I saw. Yeah, the EXO 2.0. I'm going to actually copy this and share this in the chat because I want everyone to go out there, subscribe to this person. This EPG6. Which is, by the way, I'm pretty sure a Titanfall reference, because that's the plasma grenade launcher that they have. Whoop. Push the run button. Just save this fast. So EPG6 did this incredibly cool video, which I really want to show off for a second. Again, I don't want to steal their content. The content is peak. Seriously, go watch it. It's incredible. Truly it is. So let's just watch this together very fast so you guys can see what I'm working with here. I want to incorporate some of the EXO 2.0 concept designs from EPG6. So you guys can find their channel. This specific video is right there, right now. So you can see the enhanced mobility. I'll try to have it on mute. There we go. So it has enhanced mobility. It has a stratagem launcher. I really like the stratagem launcher idea. I think that's so good. Also, I love the idea of it having a stabilized, climbable platform. I really want this in-game. I want this stuff so much. And then finally, the enhanced melee attacks. I really like the stomp effect that it has. I think that's really fucking cool. And actually, this is perhaps the best look at what an EXO actually is. So again, huge thanks to EPG6. If you are watching this as a live stream, right now in the chat is the video. I will have the link to the video in the actual video description very shortly, because it is ever so good. It is ever so good. It needs to be celebrated. So yeah, let me actually just put that into the video description right the hell now, because it's so good. Put this in, let's see. This is going to be right below the learn more about the games and stuff. Actually, I'll just remove that entirely. Boop. Let's see. EPG6. At EPG6. I just want to make sure I got that name right. Yeah, it's EPG6. Wow, it's not showing up, huh? Okay, that is weird. EPG6. EXO 2.0 video. Go over and give them some love. They're incredible. They truly are. Cool. And we're going to save that. That should be updated. Hell yeah. Love that guy. Yeah, he does great work. He does really great work. So we're going to be borrowing some elements from the EXO 2.0 design. Namely, our enhanced mobility feature. I want this thing to move quick. I really want the stratagem launcher. This is such a good idea. the fact that this is not in the game, I know why it's not in the game. I know why it's not in the game. The EXO is a vehicle. They want people who are cavalry to actually kind of feel like it's there's a compromise to be made there. So I do want to have a stratagem launcher, though. So we're going to do that. So we're going to pop in here, and we're going to get onto this layer, and we're going to start doing some work. I really love where you had the stratagem launcher too. It actually makes a lot of sense. So we're just going to have the stratagem launcher here. And it's going to be slightly raised up. Has a little robot gimbal on it. Cool. And we're just going to round that out a little bit. Nice. Okay. Hold on. Just trying to shrink that. There we go. Has a little robotic arm there to sort of move and fire. It's nothing too crazy. And then the thing is just a simple little tube. It's not too insane. The design's pretty straightforward, actually, which is why I really love it. It's a very simple concept. It does not take much to do. And you get a very cool effect. Very fast. Okay, cool. So we have our EPG6 style. I think that's what I might call it, the EPG6 stratagem launcher. It feels like it has to be shouted out. Like, they have to be shouted out for their awesome design. Seriously, if you don't follow EPG6 out there and you're watching this in the future, I'm not sponsored. Just go follow them. They're an incredibly talented artist. They deserve all the love. So we're going to have that. Just sort of sit that on top here. Cool. That'll do. So we have our stratagem launcher. I feel like specifically because Gentry is cavalry, the idea is theoretically, as a cavalry push, there'd be multiple exos pushing. So you wouldn't have as many Helldivers on the ground supporting them. It'd be kind of like a four-person, like, mech charge. And fun fact, when I'm actually playing the game, I pop out and throw my stratagem, and then haul my ass back in. It takes, like, no time at all. But if I didn't have to, if I could just hit control and just punch it out and shoot it out, that'd be amazing. I'd be down with that. Okay, so we have this. Is there anything else I really want to incorporate into the design? I feel like that's the biggest one. Oh, an energy shield generator. I feel like that's probably like he wears it, like just like the actual Helldivers do. So I'm gonna give a fun little peek at Gentry's design that I'm not sure anybody's really seen before or looked at. This little glowy thing in the middle of his chest plate, and it is in fact still present on his current armor design. This thing right here in the dead middle. It isn't an arc reactor, but I do think it actually might be a secondary shield generator. Like something he just threw in there as like an emergency in case. Because he's, you know, been mauled once. I don't think he's ever wanting to be mauled again. So, yeah, I like that idea. We're going to incorporate that, perhaps. But I feel like having a shield generator for the mech is the right move. So, if we look at the actual shield generator, stratagem, it has a very specific design to it. So we don't need to worry about 90% of this. 90% of this is battery cell. The actual emitter is this device here, which is pretty much one-to-one identical to the emitter used as the stratagem, the shield generation, the shield dome. So I feel like what we're gonna have is an emitter tucked somewhere on this thing, possibly on the arms. I kind of like the idea of that. There's a lot of free real estate on the arms here. It's either the arm or the head. You know what? I think I'll stick it on the back of the mech. We'll stick it on the back of the mech, where it's discreet. It's very discreet. Because the rear of an exo has a very, like, specific zone of visibility, of, like... I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. Should be under the Seif designs. I took, like, 1 million pictures at one point. They're all buried. I can't be bothered to find them. The back of an exo has, like, a very specific design to it. So, like, there's an area where I can stick a shield generator on there. I think that would be the right move. I just don't want to make him too overpowered, you know? I want Gentry to actually struggle in battle. And also, he's still a Helldiver. He's not a Space Marine. So, like, we gotta work within the boundaries of what exists in the setting as practical technology. Now, technically, we don't have to. This is a fan work. I can do whatever I want. Anyone who's familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog fanworks knows you can go as far as you want to go with your fandom. And nobody can stop you. I know. The guys at Archie Comics literally tried to stop them. It didn't stop. It didn't end well for them in that respect. I guess it also didn't end well for the guy who made Amy Rose. That guy's kind of a... It wasn't Amy Rose, technically. It was, I can't remember her name, the pink echidna, whatever. Can you tell I'm an old Sonic the Hedgehog fan way back in the day? Yeah, that guy was kind of a creep. So, the particular guy who designed that character, and he eventually, like, split off and made his own, like, furry art franchise, and it, as far as I understand, died. Which is probably for the best for everyone involved. Not that fan comics are bad, I think fan comics are great, but that guy was a bit of a creep, so for him it was like it was a very personal kind of like, oh, good for us, I guess, kind of a situation. So there we go. We're gonna just take this design here. Alright, then we're gonna pull this down. So I want this part here to come down and around. Beautiful. So we're going to just fill these doors up. Now, technically, these aren't doors. These are like... I think they're some kind of, like, jury box or something. It's like an engine housing of some kind. There we go. So there are some distinctions between my design and the official Helldiver design. The biggest being I added like an armored brow up on top. I kind of feel like Gentry would want more armor after his near-death experience. I don't think he'd be content with just like, oh yeah, the old armor design? Yeah, that's fine. No, it's really not. It's not enough. We need more. A pair of pretty powerful headlamps there, and a secondary pair on the side. Okay, then we're going to take these two lines. There's like a pair of lines that go down the center. I presume these are handles to remove the jury box. And there's like a little divoted in section. And we have a couple of bolts up here. They'll become more obvious as I sketch them in. There we go. Beautiful. Cool, so our handles are looking good. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. And the same thing here. It almost gives his mech angry eyes a little bit, which I kind of like. Angry eyes. Here comes Mr. Angry Eyes. And we're going to put this sort of bit here, since these plates sort of come out a little bit. Cool. So this gives us a pretty solid design to work off of. I'm going to borrow pure white here. Put this on a much higher level. This is going to be cameras. Detail. And then I'm going to have a glow section, which I always tend to have. Glows. Okay. So this is going to be pretty easy. So this is a lamp that sits inside there. We have headlamps over here on the sides, just like your car. They're slightly recessed. Okay. Now, fun fact, if I really wanted to, I could amp this up to 11. Put this on with hard light, and yeah, that works pretty well. And then we just sort of splishy splash it around there. There we go. So now we got a pretty easy, like, light effect that I can turn on and off. And also because the light is so far away from both the cameras and the chin camera, it's not going to interfere with the ability of the mech to actually see. Basically, no camera glare, more or less. Which is an important detail. If I'm fighting for my life, I don't want to be fucking around with camera glare. So, yeah. We're going to work around with this. We have our detail. We're going to get back to that. Okay. Put that at max power, 100. Save it. Okay. There we go. We're going to keep this part relatively straightforward. I don't need it to be too fancy. And here we go. Now there is a joint here. There's a joint lock. So we're going to quickly handle that. Because I figured this thing's firing autocannons, it's got to have some pretty sturdy reinforcement there. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. There's like this armored flap that exists there. That's sort of independent from the rest of the armor. I think it's designed to literally move up and down like a doggy door. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you why. Like, I see the original design. It looks like it's supposed to be so that the autocannon can move forward, but the gimbals are pretty locked on the Emancipator, so I'm not sure if that's there for that, or if that's just there to shield the internal mechanism. Either way, I think Gentry would have removed it. I think he would have removed it in favor of just reinforcing the mechanism itself. And we're going to pull that further in. Cool. So already Gentry's mech is looking pretty spicy. I like the design so far. So if you could design your own custom exo, if you're out there currently in the comments and watching and chatting and enjoying, if you're watching this video, do me a favor, either comment right now in the chat or comment on the video after it's finished uploading in the future. If you're watching this as a playback, what would you do if you could make your own exo in Helldivers 2? Like, what choice would you make for your personal mech? If you had the ability to grab the ear of a Seif engineer, like Gentry, and tell him, I would like X, and he would be financially, or probably by, like, gunpoint, obligated to fulfill your ridiculous request, what would you like? What would you have as a loadout? Not just, like, guns, but also, like, what would you incorporate? Would you want it heavier? Lighter? Would you want unique weaponry? I presume everyone wants a stratagem launcher, but is there anything else crazy you'd like to integrate into it? Maybe an incorporated mine launcher, or perhaps some kind of, say, drone network. What would you throw onto your exo? Tell me in the comments below. I'd want to know. If I really like your idea, I might let you know, and who knows, I might actually throw it into the comic. Gentry's not the only member of the 613th Cavalry, after all. I figure someone out there somewhere has another exo. Probably not as well designed as Gentry's, but you know, that's because Gentry's basically Char. Gentry's basically like exo Char. He's been tooling around with his mech for a while now. But if you could customize your mech, what would you do? So we're just going to have very simple joints here. Nothing too out of place. If anyone's ever seen any mobile suits or like super robot stuff, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not going to do too much crazy stuff. And now we have the outside mechanism. This is where things are going to get a little nutty. So it's a very convoluted housing for most autocannons for like their barrel, which I'm not going to do because I need to draw this over and over and over again, so I'm not going to do that. But we are going to draw the actual barrel. And then we're going to go in there, and we're just going to hit the interior of this. Just to make it very clear, this is a separate piece. I'm going to block this out with black, and then go back over it. Because I want to make sure that stands out very clearly. And we're going to actually do that with a silver steel color scheme, as opposed to like the dingier kind of like general gray that I've got going for the rest of it. Which will change, by the way. This is just the temporary working color scheme for the moment. And have some rifling on there too. Technically, I believe the autocannon isn't smoothbore. I believe it's actually a rifled weapon. Technically, it isn't a recoilless rifle because those literally have like, you know, a rifling on the interior of the barrel. They basically are just a gun. A very fancy gun, but a gun. These are still cannons, but I do believe they're rifled. I don't believe they're smoothbore. You know what? Let's find out. Autocannon, Helldivers 2. I wonder if someone's got a good shot looking down the barrel. Probably. There's got to be a way for us to see down that thing. I know we can, like, manually aim it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Okay, I need to get back to my original reference. So, the back of this thing is basically completely articulated. So we're just going to do a very simple design back here on the back of the jury box. There we go. Just so I can have an easier time drawing it after the 1000th image of the mech blowing things up. It's just going to make my life as an artist a lot easier. There we go. I'm going to have a little round mechanism in there. There we are. Okay, cool. Now I can go back in. There we go. And we're going to sort of take that. Cool. So by doing this, I'm just going to have a little circular mechanism in there. And that'll handle the reloading components. Cool. That's a much more achievable job. It's a much more achievable design. Because I got to draw this thing a billion times. Nice. Alright. This feels pretty good. So you got a pretty solid design here. Let's get on the tippy top here. These are technically the exhaust stacks, as I recall. The XO45 and the XO47 both have a very, like, specific stack design on the back. There's like a power plant back there. We're going to have a hatch on the top. This is the emergency egress hatch. Again, another thing I'm sure Gentry learned about and was like, oh god, I need to fix that. Here we go. And this part is pretty much immutable on every single EXO. Which is there's a little, like, old school style cupola you can peer out of in case your cameras go out. Pull that a little further over. Cool. We can now take that, put that in there, outline it so that it's a little bit better defined. There we go. Cool. Alright. So we've basically got Vigilant done. The only part I haven't really touched on is his little groin area, which is pretty much going to be stock. I don't really feel a need to do much with it. There was a part of me that's like, I could have a tow winch there, and I'm like, no, the internet wouldn't let me. The internet won't let me have that fun without it being, you know, immediately played for a joke. So no tow winch for you guys. No tow cables. Sometimes when I'm thinking about doing stuff for mech designs, and I remember, like, right, it has to exist on the internet, and, you know, I don't want to be like that episode of King of the Hill, where they're all terrified of saying the word meat and unit. because they have basically a member of their squad who's just literally a shitlord. Alright. So we got that pretty much down. I want to do a quick color, like, a very quick color scheme for this guy. I'm going to stick this over the top. Is there anything on this? No. Okay. Color scheme. We're going to do this as an overlay. Cool. And put that at 45. So, the last design that we had for Gentry's Exo was a very specific splash. It was a diagonal splash from left to right. I like that. But I want to... I want to kind of invert it. Before it was all pure white armor. I would like to do it where it's the opposite. Where it's gray with a splash of white and teal. As opposed to white with a splash of gray and teal. Also because that'll be a lot easier to draw in the dark, I think. If I'm being honest with you. So let's do this. So, okay. I'm going to just take this, and we're going to go to... That'll do, nicely. A little too strong. 45, save. So we're going to go here. There. There. And it'll sort of come out on the other side. Cool. So that'll keep it relatively under the line. Then we can do the same thing here. Bring that to about there. And then we can just sort of get on the underside of it and cut that off. Cool. So that gives us one splash, and then we can continue it over here. Beautiful. And we'll pull it a little higher so that it matches. So that'll give us a very clean, neat divide between where the paint job is and the actual, like, cutoffs of the mech are. And then we're going to just get in there and... Cool. That works. So we got ourselves a nice splash from one diagonal down. Let's do the same thing with this cyan. Okay, so we can cut onto that. And we're going to make sure that it doesn't get on any of the industrial parts that need to be replaced and repaired, because that would be a bad sign. That'd be a bad day for everybody. Cool. So we got that. I want to still do like the same sort of thing here. So we're going to keep this relatively below the other. Hold on. Hit. There we go. That looks pretty decent. I don't like that sort of curve bit there, so we're just going to hit. There we are. And I can always cut that down as I need. Beautiful. Okay, let's get to the parts where it isn't going to be. It isn't going to be in the join there, because that's actually where, like, articulating parts move, and that's just a bad day. Anyone who needs to maintain that mech would be very upset, and Gentry has to maintain the mech, so he would be very upset with that. So he would keep it pretty neat. Stick the line. And then... Beautiful. And we'll do the same thing here. And then it comes up there. Beautiful. Okay. We got ourselves a pretty good design for the color scheme, I think. And then we're going to get in here and remove the lines where the jockey boxes are. Here we go. And straight down. Beautiful. Cool. Okay. We're just going to remove the paint job from these parts for the exact same reasons. Because these are actual, like, divots in the metal. Paint would not get on them. And those are handles. No one wants paint on the handles. That's not a good deal. Beautiful. Okay. I really like that, actually. The single splash looks really nice. I'm going to try one more. I'm going to go with the old design, just literally copy it bit for bit, and see how it looks. So the old design was literally the inverse of this. And the top I don't need to worry too much about, because it can sort of get wherever. It doesn't much matter. And then up here, you sort of have that. Okay, cool. Same thing. Corners don't get paint. Cool. And we just sort of take that, drag that through. Now, also, we have the added bonus of this part here actually has a ridge. So as long as the ridge isn't touching anything, we should be good. Alright, ridge looks okay. Ridge line's alright. Ridge line is good. Okay. go. We take that, bring that straight down. And then we just take that straight over here. Beautiful. Okay. Let's make sure this part is secured. I want to make sure that is still no color because there's a jockey box there. This part's a ridge, so this shouldn't have paint on it. Good. I do the same thing here. Cool. I actually really dig that. I think that looks pretty neat. It gives us a nice, solid color scheme. Keeps the identity of the old cosmetic aesthetic that Gentry had going on it. With that nice splash going from left to right. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then on the other side, we can have the actual, like, squad number printed, probably. I'm going to save this fast. Okay. So let's take a look at what type of font would we likely use. It'd be something simple, straightforward. 613. That doesn't look too bad. Because this would be at an angle, mind you, so I just need to see how that looks. Let's do that with a white instead. Beautiful. Okay. So that's a little off. I really don't want to use Trebuchet or Times New Roman. Times New Roman is too much. Sen MT's not bad, actually. You want something that's going to read immediately like it was printed out, stenciled on. There's actually a couple stencils in here, as I recall. I know Orbiter is technically a stencil, but it's just a little bit off for me. It doesn't quite look like what you'd be getting out of Super Earth. Copperplate gold, no, that has serifs. I don't want that. Carlito. No, Carlito doesn't look good. Calibri's fine. Britannic bold, fine. Broadway's a little bit over the top. I think we might have had the right idea. Berlin Sand, actually, not too bad. That's legible. Bauhaus. Yeah, I don't want to use Baskerville. When you're flipping through all the fonts and you're like, what are we going to use? What are we going to use? You know what? I think we had the right idea. HP Simplified Japan or Condensed. I'll go with the HP. Cool. So we can take that, increase the size of it a little bit, make it an 18. Nice. So now that we've got that taken care of, we are going to rasterize that, and we're going to distort it. I want this thing to fit in this space. So that means it needs to actually toe the line. Beautiful. We're going to apply that there, and now I can take that and shrink it, and it should be perfect. Cool. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. I like that. So that gives us Gentry's mech design when he's more or less out fighting and kicking ass. There's a couple details I still need to get. Let's also get the glows going. Oh yeah, that actually looks really good with the lights on. I do really like the idea of keeping some of the yellow elements, because the yellow elements actually are basically the old Helldiver components that were on there. So we're going to go in there very fast and sort of hit these areas up. I said hit these areas up. There we go. There we go. Because this is actually ammo boxes that are in there. So those are going to be the same uniform color no matter who's using them. Okay, we'll do the same thing here. And we'll do the same thing here. Let's do this as a normal, actually. Cool. So they're a little wider, and a little longer. Cool, so we've got that. Is there anything else on there that really would stay the same regardless of who's piloting it? Not really. It's like the biggest distinction is that yellow. Gentry's old design also had like 1 or 2 gold elements on there. It has the shoulder pads. I can incorporate the shoulder pads a little bit too. Ooh, a thought. What if, hear me out, those stay gold? As opposed to their native color of whatever's spray painted onto them. I kind of like the way that looks, actually. Yeah, I actually really kind of like how that looks. It gives us a nice accent. Okay, yeah, we're gonna keep that. We're gonna absolutely keep that. Let's see. I'll stick on this as well. There's a reason why I stick with Gentry's colors the way they do. The way they look. Fun fact, I actually dropped this on Blue Sky, and I think I put it in Discord and a couple other places too. But Gentry Dolaan's actually aromantic and asexual. He's ace. He's arrow ace. And so I've actually had him wearing the arrow ace flag colors pretty much this whole time, and I just never really bothered to tell anybody. It's kind of fun to see that actually represented. For the record, I'm Polypan, so, like, I'm not the same as Gentry. But technically I'm Demi-Pan, Demi-Polypan. It's an interesting combo. But what it means is I wanted to make sure that Gentry properly represented a little bit of that section. A little bit of that space. I can make a Helldiver who does not fall immediately under my personal sexual preferences. I want to make sure that he gets, you know, represents properly. There we go. We put that under there. Perfect. Alright, awesome. And we're just going to get the underside of that. Make sure we get it correct. Nice. Okay. That right there is a good Helldiver mech. I like that. I think we've reached the final variation of what his mech looks like there, but I'm going to add one little distinction later. Just a little bit later. There is one other color scheme I want to use for him. So we're going to take over, we're going to grab this here, and we're going to flip this. Duplicate. Wow, you can see it really strongly there. I'm going to turn that off. I like the faded color. Okay. So for this, we're going to turn off that part. These two here are going to be Vigilant Helldiver colors. And this is going to be Vigilant. Put that under yellow. It's going to be Vigilant Undercover colors. After all, Gentry is a, say it with me everybody, cybernetic operative, which means we gotta have some color schemes that work there. So I'm gonna go with a more automaton-friendly color scheme here. I really like the idea of that splash, though. That looks very good. And again, those Helldiver components are gonna stay more or less the same. So let's get to work on something a little bit more cybernetic, eh? We're also going to get the glows here as well. Should be on the cameras. We're going to duplicate cameras here. Throw that under the Vigilant. Throw that under this. So we're going to actually grab these cameras here. Save. And we're going to change the color of them to get them to that appropriate automaton red. There we go. And now we're going to get to work on the actual color scheme. So if I'm going to go with a simple scheme here, this is an overlay. I like the idea of something very simple and direct. Pull it over here a little more. All the way down there. Oh, hold on. There we are. I kind of want to incorporate the cog and teeth design that a lot of automaton stuff does, but I think we can do that by just erasing stuff here. And then also we'll just apply like the, I should have the cyborg, yes! Ha! We have that at the top. Header footer, I'm gonna borrow this. We're going to slap this down on top of there. Reduce the opacity a little bit. Merge. Merge that down. Okay. It is not working, and I don't like that. Oh well, I'll work with it. So that gives us at least an idea. I kind of want to do like an off-centered automaton star to make it seem like it's been spray painted almost. So we can do something like that. Might just be better to do it on a shoulder pad. Yeah, we'll do it on a shoulder pad up there. Okay, I can work off of that. Let's get to work on the actual color scheme here. We're just going to pop through. I want to do like one more blood red line right down the middle. Cool. Alright. Let's get in there very fast. There we go. We can pull this down. There we go. Okay. Alright, so first things first. That's going to be mounted on top. That'll be mounted in the back. Okay, we can sort of pull that to about there. And then we just sort of pull that straight down. This gives us like a very racing, stripey kind of look to it. And we're gonna get right along the edge of that, because again, jockey boxes, this shit would not be painted for obvious reasons. Okay, and we get under here. Remove that. And this is just to give me an idea of what to go with here. And we can just sort of take that and bring that straight down. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. Cool. Alright, so we've got ourselves a pretty good, like, bloody red color scheme going. I kind of like that. Got this very aggressive, angry design. Let's fix it up with a couple of gears. A couple of cog teeth. Nice. And we have that here. That's one. We're gonna have three, I think. There we go. So we got ourselves a pretty good design there. I'm actually going to turn that off there. I think it looks better without the immediate automaton look. Okay. And let's just pop in here, take care of the interiors where the lights are, because the lights wouldn't be painted, because no one's that crazy. You want that shit to actually be functional. Okay, that is a distinction that I need to make. And let's do that. Beautiful. Now we can do the same thing here with that and with that. We're going to save this. And now we have Gentry's Red Sun version. Red Sun variant armor. Which, flip the lights and the cameras on, and... yeah, now that's pretty fucking cool. I like that. I like that. That turned out pretty decent. Okay. Well, with that, my friends, I feel like we're pretty good. We have ourselves two color schemes for Vigilant. We have his undercover Gentry armor, and we have... hold on. All the way to the bottom, because it flipped all the way to the bottom. There we go. And on the other side, we have Gentry's Helldiver armor. Custom design. I'm very pleased with how this turned out, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Expect to see Vigilant show up within the next few comics, I figure. Within the next, like, I'd say probably, like, 5 to 6 comics. We got a fair bit gonna be happening narratively. I'm building up this next arc slow and steady, so you'll be seeing it dropping soon. And again, if you guys want to support me, you can support me on patreon.com/TheLastOmnitect, like my incredible patrons Ampersand, Heinrich, and Atlas, as well as also my Tier 2 patrons, Necronomus and Souls Rolls. For as low as $6 a month, you can help me make my webcomics and get a whole bunch of free stuff for it, including, in certain cases, special custom art that's exclusively downloadable by you, as well as also free access to my TTRPG works when they finally are completed, and 2-week early access to my webcomics right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am the Last Omnitect, your favorite robot American. This has been Gentry, Dolaan Ain't No Fascist, another Helldivers 2 webcomic art stream. And I'll see you out there, Voyagers. Peace.